Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Tara Swersey. I'm the CEO of Strider, and I'm here today with Natasha Springers-Levine, the Chief Operating Officer of Strider, to provide a professional development webinar as part of our industry series for the United States Eventing Association's 2023 convention. Our presentation today is on digital resources to maximize education and access for the eventing community. This is something that has come up quite a bit in conversation over the last year with a lot of our users. So we thought it was important to pull it together, some of the analysis that had been done both throughout the sport and throughout our company, and provide it to the USEA's membership. For those of you who aren't familiar with Strider, we are an educational partner of the USEA. We also operate a digital entry platform that is a universal entry platform that supports the full United States Equestrian Federation membership. So we support recognized horse shows, recognized horse trials, recognized combined test, dressage shows of the United States Dressage Federation, pony club rallies, everything from the very, very top all the way down to local grassroots schooling. So schooling shows, clinics, seminars, arena rentals, you name it. It's can be used for whatever your farm needs as far as digital entries and payments. But we also have some other products that we've supported the community with, which is our digital waivers and digital payment capability that we've partnered with Venmo on and PayPal. So we have a lot of diverse users on the platform. We supported the virtual horse shows for Practical Horsemen, Dressage Today during COVID. We support venues up and down Eastern Seaboard, West Coast, Area 5, you name it. And what was happening was over the last year, a lot of the venues had come to us after they'd had a chance to breathe and said, listen, we're not filling our horse shows. We're not getting the spectators we want to have at our horse shows. We're not seeing what we expect to see for our recognized horse shows. We're having problems. We're not sure if it's the dates, what else is going on. And because we support throughout the entire industry, we have a bit of an optic on what's going on and what's working well for venues in one area that maybe another venue can adopt. And we started taking a hard look at what are some of the digital resources? What are some of the ways that a venue or a rider can improve their access to education throughout the eventing community? And we found that there were some key things that endured no matter what venue, what the discipline was, and who the rider was to enable this. Really, it's about the community. We've got everything possible on our platform. We've got the show jumping, we've got dressage, we've got team penning, we've got reining, we've got combined driving. We looked at education at home and in the TAC for the eventing community. We looked at the critical access enablers, and then we pulled together some of the resources that the eventing world, can use back home, both free and paid, but with an emphasis on the free because it's eventers, so we know. Okay, so with that, education at home, we're not going to spend too much time on this because a lot of the data on this is the property of the independent entities that are listed, but it's a great place to just explore if you're looking for better access to education. These are some ways you can get education at home, your podcast, your live streams, your video. All of us know the story of, the 12-year-old kid that saw Rolex Kentucky 30 years ago and grew up to be a major advanced rider, international competitions, all that sort of stuff. The master classes, the audio classes. If you didn't have a chance to see Piggy TV recently, take a look at that. You've got some other amazing stuff with Ride IQ, Noel Floyd, Horse and Country. And then the data. A lot of you have seen the industry's safety studies with the helmets or equa ratings analysis that's been done. That's all stuff you can do at home. What we looked at for the purposes of how do we expand access to education and participation in education and the sport of eventing, was we looked at everything under the tent, meaning everything from the very, very top level of the sport, the recognized horse trials, because we support the entries to the recognized horse trials, all the way down to the schooling horse trials, the clinics, the schooling options, the cross-country schooling at venues all throughout the areas, the opportunities to ride practice tests in somebody's dressage arena when the dressage rider goes down to Wellington, the various trainers that are available, the ECP directory, the instructors, the virtual lessons, Those have gotten fairly popular. They started with COVID, but they've stayed popular. A lot of them book their virtual clinics through Strider. Everything that's grassroots in the feeder channel. So it may not have the word eventing on it, but it may be a feeder into the sport of eventing. Not everybody wakes up in the morning and decides they're going to be an eventer. Sometimes they just liked going over some of the 100-pace stuff, and then they met an eventer and they decided that was a cool thing to do. So we looked at everything across the sport and said, what are some of the ways that some of these venues are increasing the participation at their venues, meaning they're not always getting the same 50, 100, 200, 250 riders at their activities, but they're pulling in people from other states, from other locations, from other farms, other barns. And what are some of the ways that this was an interesting one. What are some of the components that made riders enter earlier than other locations? Meaning, one of the complaints we had was eventers are waiting to the last possible minute to enter my horse show, whether it's a schooling day, an evening schooling, a horse trial, a recognized horse trial. They're waiting to the last possible minute. And we started seeing some activities where they were not waiting until the last possible minute. And we started figuring out why. And that's kind of an interesting aspect. The bottom line was, when we looked at membership and we looked at numbers, broadening under the tent means going outside membership gateways. If you look at the United States Equestrian Federation, their membership's a little bit over 200,000. The USEA is, I think, just shy of 13,000. Rob, you can yell at me later if I got the number wrong, but that was what I think it is this year. And then some of the entry providers that support just the little silo of eventing. Some of them have a membership requirement too before you can enter anything that is posted on their sites. And those were obviously going to be visibility a lot smaller as well. In comparison, there's 3.5 million people on Facebook alone that are interested in the sport of eventing or badminton horse trials. And those 3.5 million people, plus everybody else who searches on Google for dressage and show jumping and hunter paces and cross country this and maybe fox hunting and any other the other feeder channels, pony club rallies, whatever, they all start feeding into those feeder channels into the sport of eventing. So if you're not reaching people on Facebook and you're not reaching people on Google and you're only reaching a subset of a subset of a subset, well, then it makes sense that maybe the activities aren't filling, or the clinic participation isn't as wide as you might expect, or people are waiting until the last possible minute, or you don't have a lot of spectators. We started identifying that there were several components, Google being one of them, that really maximize your ability to move things to the right. And by moving things to the right, you've got a date that you probably have posted or announced to the world that you're hosting something, whether it is an educational clinic series, whether it's cross-country schooling, it's a schooling show, whatever it is, recognized horse trials. You've got it. Usually you're going to have an open date, you're going to have a closed date. So one of the questions was, why is everybody waiting until the last possible minute to fill, to enter? And we found that there were 3 components of technology that were instrumental in getting that fill date to move to the left, closer to the open date. The entry process and the payment process had to be mobile friendly. The announcement and everything around the announcement, meaning how you submit your waiver, whether or not you had to print out something or you could just fill it out online, had to be digital. And the information about the activity had to be shareable. So while you might be able to broaden awareness with a Facebook event, it was also great if you had a custom URL that you could text to people in the barn aisle, because then you could share, hey, I've got this Ann Krasinski clinic down the street. Did you want to go to it with me and audit? And then it was shareable. And then we started finding that even just for the spectators, the registrations were coming in earlier, and they were more numerous in quantity because it was mobile friendly, digital, and shareable. The critical enablers that Natasha's going to talk about in a little bit were the ability to email out your mailing list, notify them that you've had it, also posting it on social media, with Facebook and Instagram being the 2 key, but Facebook groups being a critical enabler of that, and showing up in Google search results with more than just the title. having your open invitation to attend this educational or competitive opportunity in Google search results. Those three enablers were instrumental in going from just a little bit sliver of the population you wanted to reach to maximizing the population you wanted to hit. And email could potentially have a cost to it, depending on the program you use. Social media is free. Google search results is free, especially if you're on Strider. So think about those sort of aspects and think about some of the stuff that Natasha's going to share with you. Because what we found was the meaningful obstacles in broadening the participation, getting the entries in on time, or filling it at all, was whether or not the venue or the organizer had desktop entry, meaning did you have to go to your desktop at home to enter the activity? And a lot of the activities that they had to go home to do something, they procrastinated to enter. It makes sense. You don't like go home early to do something you don't feel like doing. So if they could do it from their phone and it was very straightforward, they did it early. But if they couldn't do it from their phone, well, it doesn't surprise anybody that they waited until the last possible minute to sit in front of a desktop and fill something. So the entries came in later if it was a desktop entry. They came in later if there was any sort of paper-based requirement to it. If the waiver was paper and not a digital waiver, the entries would come in later. If it was a digital waiver and it was accessible from wherever the announcement was, hey, makes sense that people are doing it quicker and earlier because they can do it quicker and earlier. If there was any sort of membership wall. Now, sometimes you want to have a membership wall. Sometimes if it's a, area 2 young riders or something like that, you want to restrict it to a certain membership to start off with. But make sure those membership gates are intentional, because what we found was, and the feedback we got from the riders, eventers around the community, was that if they had to log into something to enter a educational activity, a schooling event, a schooling show, an evening schooling, schooling horse trial, fix a test, whatever, they procrastinated or they just didn't do it. They wanted to be able to just pick up their phone and either enter quickly off their phone or, not have to create yet another account. And part of that is because, as we all know, we all have thousands and thousands of accounts across God knows how many different software programs. So if we have to create yet another account, it's kind of a pain. And if that account is not mobile friendly, it's also a pain. So consider those aspects when you're looking for ways to maximize the access, because the phone is more and more and more critical right now in order to give the riders access. You've got a lot of riders who are younger riders who they're riding horses with the phone in their pocket. They're not riding with a printer in their pocket. So if you want them to come to your horse show or your educational activity, you're going to need to have that. Natasha will talk a little bit more about the critical enablers, but I would mention that came up really front and center with some of the top. We support over 60 Olympic riders and world champions. So, our program is used by all of them. So what we found was some of the riders were coming to us and saying, listen, I'm having these clinic series and it's the same 50-mile radius and my clinics are filling over here, but they are not filling over here. I'm the same person. The only thing has changed is the venue. Well, we found whether or not the venue was using email, social media, and the Google results, basically, whether or not they were allowing it to get out to the world, influenced how many people were accessing that educational activity, even though it was the exact same rider, and those riders are hugely popular. Okay, this is just a recap. Mobile friendly is going to be a must-have in 2024. If you want to enable access to eventing, you want to enable access to the sport, everything you have has got to be mobile friendly. You have to have a mobile friendly discovery process so that people can find out about your activity and not just text me for more information, but an open access invite that they can readily read through. They don't need to reach out to a stranger. The entry, the payment. Avoid membership walls whenever possible, or make sure they're intentional. Just if you have to limit it, make sure you're doing it with deliberate intent. A public invite is always going to get more clicks. So some of the activities that we saw get more clicks, we have a cross publication with Eventing Nation. So you'll see what's happening. Everything from Strider goes over to Eventing Nation. And we could see more clicking happening If the initial description said, please join us, you're welcome to join us, auditors welcome. If it just had a simple sentence of, hey, you know what, we're friendly, we're not going to bite your head off, we're a dressage venue, we're a jumping venue, whatever it is, please come and sign a release before you go cross-country schooling. If it was welcoming and accessible, people were more likely to click on that activity and sign up for that activity. If it wasn't welcoming, if it didn't have a welcoming feel to it, they were a little nervous about it. The mental telepathy of like, well, of course we're the nicest venue around, or the nicest clinic organizer, or the nicest clinician. That didn't always work. The story I like to tell is, if anybody listening has done barrel racing, you know, you're a eventer, you like to have fun, you like to go out, whatever. Somebody tells you that the farm down the road is going to be doing barrel racing, and they're going to have trot classes and canter classes, and, you know, maybe you win a saddle or, you know, alcohol or something, right? If it's just a casual outing, you as an eventer, you're probably going to say, hey, let's get a couple of people to go. We don't have any shows this Saturday. Let's go down there. If that same Western farm says, okay, to come to my little casual barrel racing, I need you to fill out this piece of paper, print it out, mail it to me, mail me a check, or, you know, get it to me 7 days ahead of time, and now it's 4 days to the barrel racing, or sign up for this entry farm site thing that I've set up that's all cumbersome and I can't quite figure out how to give you my coggins, you're probably not going to bother with it, because those obstacles of desktop, paper, not mobile friendly are all present. So think about how accessible you're making your actual activities for somebody like your local Starbucks barista. If you walk into Starbucks and you say, hey, I've got a horse show this week and I need to have a couple of carafes of coffee, could they Google you and quickly enter or come to see your horse show? Is it that accessible for a random person on the street who knows nothing about horses to come access your horse show? And if it's not that accessible for them, if it's locked down behind a membership gateway, if it's locked down behind something else, make sure you did that deliberately. Because if you want to widen the participation and the access to your activities, you need to have it accessible. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Natasha to give you some specific information on the best practices that we found that various entities were doing to make it more accessible and to improve the access. So with that, I will turn it over to Natasha. Thank you all.
Well, thank you, Tara, for giving us a little briefing on how we can expand access. As Tara mentioned, I'm just going to dive a little bit deeper into some of the best practices for getting the word out about your event, converting people to attend your event, and making sure that you are casting the widest possible net and reaching the most number of, or the highest number of interested people. So whether you're hosting a horse show, a clinic, a grooming workshop, or anything like that, you want to make sure that your entries are accessible, that you're not putting up big barriers through something like a membership wall, or making people go to 6 different places to submit all the information and the payment that you need. You want to make sure that things are as mobile friendly as possible. So if you are renting out time in your riding arena, or you have a cross-country schooling venue, you want to make sure that your payment is mobile friendly. How tired are you as an organizer, as a venue owner, manager, of hearing, oh, I forgot my checkbook, can I pay you next time? There might not be a next time. That person might, you know, head back to their home base and completely forget to pay you. So you want to make sure that someone can pay you from the driveway, from the trailer parking area, and that you're capturing that revenue in an immediate way. The other thing to think about is something like a digital waiver. Again, the paperwork gets really, really cumbersome and quite lost. So how hard is it to access something that you have to go back to your computer at home, print out, bring with you? It just creates too many steps in a process that could be really simple. Uh-oh, I don't know how to change slides. Okay. Something that we talk a lot about at Strider and that we've seen work really, really well for our organizers is email. So not just sending a simple plain text email that you have 150 people BCC'd on. We want you to use an email list. We've seen these marketing lists be really, really effective for people growing their businesses and boosting attendance. Not only that, it creates a way for you to extend a personal invitation to a ton of people that looks professional. You're in control of the branding, so you can add your logos, you can add your sponsor logos. And not only that, you can create a really clear email funnel or, like a jump shoot to your entry option and payment pages. So you're just keeping people channeled and focused on what they are meant to do, which is join in at the activity that you're hosting. Not only that, an email is really easy to forward. So if they have a lovely branded email from you, they can forward it to a friend, and then you're expanding your community in that way. So just a couple of things to touch on here are that marketing lists are really important. So having an email contact list, a spreadsheet, is very, very important to growth. And it will also keep you legally compliant. That BCC approach can get you into some sticky situations. Again, just touching on the personal aspect that Tara mentioned earlier, right? People feel more welcomed when they're invited somewhere. So creating a nice email campaign in something like Constant Contact or MailChimp can really go a long way for growing your community. Something else to talk about is social media. So Facebook and Instagram are key tools for the equestrian community. They are free tools, so take advantage of them. Business Suite by Meta or Facebook slash Instagram is free to use. We do recommend always having a business page for your business. So not just doing everything from your personal account. Remember that Facebook is searchable. It is also clickable in a way that Instagram is not. So while Instagram makes you look friendly and lovely to be around because of all the wonderful media that you share, whether it be high quality imagery or video, just remember that your captions on Instagram are not clickable. So you're going to convert more people. You're going to reach more people in a way that allows them to click and attend and join in your community through Facebook. But Instagram does help to reverberate that brand awareness that we talk about. There are some really great and very, very active equestrian groups on Facebook. Area 2 has a really lively one. There's also one that's separate for adult riders. Area 1 has one as well. These are just great ways to get the word out. And again, share the links to whatever mobile friendly way that you are accepting your entries. So once you've cast your net to the people that you already know and extended the invitation to the people that you already know, you want to make sure that a stranger can walk in off the street and join the community, right? A lot of what we talk about is expanding access to eventing, to the sport of eventing, to equestrian sport in general. So make sure that what you are offering is readily available on the internet, on Google. It's not behind a membership wall. It is open access. The really cool thing about a tool like Strider is that you get to be in charge of the language that shows on Google and in a Facebook preview search. So what that means is that it's not just going to say horse show on this date. It says details that you have put in and that you want the world to know. It can feel a little bit more personal. And again, you're just putting your best foot forward for people who may not already know you. That is a huge way to expand your community, expand your reach, grow your business, boost your revenue. You want to make sure that whatever tool that you're using for your entries enables that. and is not putting up another barrier there where you don't need one. So just to recap some of what we've talked about, high performing events are those that have all of these things working together. I talk about this a little bit like a point system, right? So you want the highest possible score for use of your digital entries, digital payments, digital tools like email, social media, and Google. You want to make sure that your activities, your events are accessible, that the entry process is efficient for riders and for you, that it's inclusive, right? That you're able to be accessed from a number of places like email, like Google, like a textable link that can be shared that people can then use to convert to attend your event and make it like click, book, ride, right? That's one of our little go-to sayings here at Strider, and it works. You want to make sure that you are in a position to grow your revenue. So is your entry process a barrier to your business making money? That is possible, but that's not what we're seeing across our high-performing venues here at Strider. You want to also make sure that you are doing your part in your way to grow the sport, right? Digital entries, digital payments, and reverberation of that message through email, Google, and social media are all going to help grow the sport that we all care about so much. As you can see here, the grayed out print column is not something that we recommend. I touched on this a little bit before in just talking about digital waivers, but having pieces of paper and check payments are just going to be a huge barrier for entry. They're going to be a huge barrier for access for a lot of people. And you want to make sure that you're doing your part to not limit that access to education and to activities that are going to help people get where they want to go. So this is a really, really helpful pyramid, if you will, of all of the ways that these digital tools work to help get to the pinnacle of the sport, right? And you can see our sort of gateway in the middle. There are some things that you do want to have membership benefits for or membership only access to. But at the grassroots level, you want to make sure that everything is as accessible as possible. So you can text out an entry link. You can have all of your entry information collected in one place that reverberates your message, that you can then boost out through social media, through the internet, through email, right? And then you want to be sort of a feeder to organizations like the USEA, the United States Pony Club, the United States Equestrian Federation, Dressage Federation, and all of these things are working in tandem to help boost our sport. We also have here a really handy QR code to our digital toolkit. So it talks about a lot of the things that we've touched on in this presentation, as well as gives you a little bit of a breakdown of what's what and what can help you in your business. With that, I will open things up for questions by just sharing our support@striderpro.com email address. You can reach out to Tara and myself at any point with any questions that you may have. We're happy to help and steer you in the right direction. Thank you so much.